Right, so I did a segment a little while back, which definitely had Stelios on it. Might have had you as well on it, Josh.
I think it did.
And I dropped in casually the assertion that all political parties that exist today are left-wing parties. And I just kind of dropped that in there thinking it was a self-evident truth and was happy to move on. But you took issue with that, Stelios.
Yeah, actually, that was in the kitchen. I was eating then.
Oh, was it? No, and I think I mentioned it in a segment as well, but then we followed it up with a further discussion. But you think that we actually have actual right-wing parties in existence today?
Well, again, it depends what you mean left and right. And
Yes.
the argument you gave me was, at that point, in the kitchen,
Yes.
was that because some people are not as right as other people, they're left, which is the exact inverse of what some leftists are doing, that so long as you're not Chairman Mao, you're far right.
No, I think my point is that today's society operates soaked in so many leftist and liberal assumptions. All of our institutions are government. In fact, all of our institutions are left-wing institutions. We are atop a mountain of left-wing victory after left-wing victory. So if you are operating in our society today, you cannot help but be left-wing by a normal, reasonable measure of what actual left and right is. And that no political party today, this is my assertion, because they are all looking to operate within the set of institutions that we have, by definition, that makes them all left-wing. That's my argument.
Okay, but so for instance, let's say you have lots of, let's take in the US, you have lots of voices who are anti-constitutional. I mean, not that many, but you have voices that are anti-constitutional, both left and right. Would you say that constitutionalists are leftists in the US?
No, but that's because the Constitution it's not fully defunct, but it's like a washing machine that rattles very, very badly every time it's turned on. I mean, it's hanging on there just, but I mean the apparatus of the US government is doing everything in their power to undermine the US Constitution at every possible turn. And maybe Trump is going to go some way to restoring the old girl a bit and give it a tweak here and there, but he's still going to be operating within a system which is built by left-wingers for left-wingers and operates on left-wing premises.
So I think that one useful way of looking at it is the way in which people view the political paradigm sort of as a colloquial sense. They'll say someone is far right. But that's from the perspective of what exists currently in the political system. And I think when you look at it from a historic perspective of which politics are possible, which ideologies exist, and you can plot it from left to right, you can have Marxist, Leninist communism, and then absolute monarchy.
Reform is definitely a left-wing party. If you were to take reform at any other point in the history of the British people, and we were presented with a set of problems that we've got today, the answer throughout basically all of it apart from now would be, son, get the battle axe, right? And today we've got reform which we think of as right wing, but in fact, look, here's a graphic that I put together. Here, look at this graphic, right? So that is what basically people think the political spectrum is.
Yes, but the issue is that the left-right distinction is only applied in modern politics. So just using
not in my head.
Why?
Well,
historically, that's how it has arisen. So it's a kind of an anachronism if you go back and you say, the pre-modern politics is
right, so
leftist or rightist.
So that's how people think the spectrum exists, right? And you've got the Socialist Workers' Party, Labour, Lib Dumps, Conservatives, Reform, and Homeland Party. That's broadly what they think the spectrum is.
Yeah.
Right, this is what this spectrum actually. That's what I see in my head. Right, on one end you've got a
So Homeland Party and AFD are leftist.
Yes.
Okay.
Because they are seeking to operate within the structures that we currently have, which are left-wing structures. So in my head, this is what I see. The cesspit of degenerate slime over there, Conservatives are the furthest possible left. And they are.
That's genuine. In Britain's case, that is actually true.
Yes, it is. It is absolutely true. They brought in, what was it, like 10 million people over the last 14 years or something like that.
So on social issues, they're always the most left-wing.
Yeah,
the most left-wing things.
They ramped up taxes to the highest point since the Second World War. I mean, they are, in my mind, the furthest left-wing that you can get.
They hate sandwiches.
What?
They hate sandwiches.
That's true, yeah.
Kemi Badenoch said that sandwiches are not a real food.
Right.
So how does this make you feel?
Slightly.
Should have put them more to the left, I think.
Oh, right. I'll accept that argument.
Therefore,
I'll accept that argument.
Communist.
Right. Slightly to the right of them is the Socialist Workers' Party. Slightly to the right of them are the Lib Dumps. And then slightly to the right of them are Labour. That's how I think the actual spectral breakdowns. And then you get a little bit of a gap, and you get Reform. Reform, whose policy is we basically need to appease Islam until 2050 when they become the majority.
So what you're doing here is you're sort of breaking out of the progressive view of history, whereby the frame of reference is always what has come before rather than what is possible. And I agree that Reform in any other time would have been a very radical left-wing party,
yes,
because a lot of the things that they stand for historically are not necessarily traditionally right-wing things. But also, Stelios is right that, generally speaking, people use the left and right distinction to talk about the distinctions in, contemporary politics, even though I agree with what you're saying, that we should be viewing things in a historic perspective, because it allows you to break out of the paradigm imposed on you by modern politics that says you need to think within this window and only this window is acceptable.
So in the sense that if we were primary school teachers, we might be looking at the 3-year-olds running around and saying that's the tall one and that's the short one. Mm-hmm. Whereas actually you should be, no, they're all short.
Yes.
Sorry,
you were going to say
something.
No,
I just want to say that, I mean, you're making the claim, so you have to say what constitutes left and what constitutes right.
So basically,
that's a spectrum, but what are the criteria?
I will explain exactly that.
For instance, if I started bombarding you with videos with twerking, okay,
I don't have to imagine very much.
Wing.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, if I started showing
twerking is obviously left wing.
If I started showing you about these ultra sluts and now how psyops
left wing,
that would be left wing.
Yes, turbo sluts are left wing.
I call them ultra sluts.
Yes. Well, I'm going.
It's a different distinction.
Look, this is basically what I see in my head, and I will explain exactly how I define these terms.
Yeah.
If you are in a cesspit of degenerate slime, you're on the left, and over there we got truth, light, and reason. And as you can see on my spectrum, there basically is no right-wing parties. However, the Homeland and AFD, I do put them on this well to the right of, even Reform, which is well to the right of the rest of them. But even they are trying to operate within the system, which is a left-wing system, and therefore they are a centre-left party.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that the AFD is a sort of liberal constitutionalist party that is just a bit more on the socially conservative side in the paradigm of post-war German politics, which is not saying much, really. But I do think that they're an avenue in the right direction. I'm happy to see them get successes.
I like them. But, I like them a lot, yes.
But I do agree that they could go further.
In my head, as you can see. And yes, the chat can stop pointing out I made a spelling mistake. I did this in Paint. All right, okay.
So,
right, anyway.
I have to ask you about two people. So there is a Spanish leftist, Spanish, who was eating some of his outputs. Would you put him the furthest to the left?
No, he would be slightly to the right of the Conservative Party.
Okay, and there's another Green Party politician in Germany who went to public toilets and he started cleaning them without using.
Really, the criteria that
would you use them to?
He cleaned them up
with his tongue.
Oh, he's to the right of probably Reform then. Right.
But surely there are better metrics than this.
I'm just jiving.
There are better metrics.
Jamming with
there are better metrics, and I'm coming.
Because I'm not in love with labels. I'm in love with policies. So
yes, right. Well, I'll just point this out. So this is a thing that has been doing the rounds lately, which is which system would be best for running the country. So basically, young people. Well, I say young people, mostly people between the ages of 35 and 44, most strongly, but certainly in the younger cohorts as well behind them. They've basically given up on democracy.
I mean, how? I mean, the tops it's 22%.
Yeah, but that
35.
yeah, that's
44
growing
would say
significantly.
that
If you had done
leader who doesn't
this
have to
survey
bother with
20 years
elections.
ago, it would have been 100%, democracy. It would have been like that.
Still, the overwhelming majority is pro.
Yeah. You got to look at the rate of change. So
Yeah.
those red bars are growing strongly. They are significantly redder than they were. And yes, most people are still in like the I love democracies phase, right? The absolute weakness of that. But the red, I want a strong leader. Those are growing.
Keir Starmer.
Stelios.
I've seen the link that comes.
I saw one from 2022 which asked a different question to this. That
Yes.
It said the Britain needs, I think this is off the top of my head here, Britain needs a strong leader that sometimes circumvents parliamentary democracy. And I think the 18 to 24 and the 25 to 34, it was about 60% agreed with that. So a majority. I'll try and find it while you're talking.
Find it. Let me just address Stelios's point. Is Keir Starmer a strong leader? So the youth are crying out for a strong leader. Let's play this. Samson, do you want to play this clip of Keir Starmer, and the audience can judge for themselves whether Keir Starmer meets the definition of a strong leader?
And just try and whack it. Yes, this is good. And again. That's it. And again. Try and breathe. Relax. That's it.
Right.
I mean, actually, how a friend of ours does it. We did a lads hour on who would win.
Yes.
And turns out most of those dictators who are called, strong leaders.
Yes.
Physically speaking, they weren't that strong.
Really?
Some of them were really just
Well, Napoleon.
Compensating.
Yeah.
Napoleon might have been a bit limp-wristed, but then he was French.
There was who else was 4-3 or 5-3.
Oh yeah, but people used to be shorter in the past because
No, meat had been invented by that point.
Well,
Napoleon was also average height for his time. He was
Really?
he was neither. It was just like us mocking him.
Wellington was tall, wasn't he? He was a bloody tall man.
Well, just because Wellington was tall doesn't mean Napoleon is short.
Right. Anyway, you have probably been thinking, okay, if Dan says that the old thing is wrong, how should it be? What should it actually look like?
I should be God Emperor of mankind.
Something like that. So basically, this, in my mind, is how the political spectrum in the UK should look. I hope that means something to the audience. So basically, on the far left, you've got Reform, and then just the standard left, you've got Homeland. The centre left, you've got Sanguinius. In the centre, you've got Roberto Gilliman. Centre right, you've got Lionel Johnson, and then out there on the right, you've got Rogel Dawn, who would be my man, and Jagatai Khan, who I'd imagine would be your choice.
Is this a 40k?
Yes.
Can you explain it to me?
Right. So basically, my argument is that we need to get away from all of this democracy weakness nonsense, and we basically just need a strong man. And if we can embody what a strong man is, it needs to be a Primarch.
And a Primarch is not an Irish mass-produced clothing shop, but a person in 40k.
So you two not following this?
What do you mean? No, I'm going to be a leftist on this.
How can you work at Lotus Eaters and not know this stuff? I had to learn this.
I mean, no, you mean the 40k.
I played sports in school.
No, my point is, unless you make me God Emperor of mankind in a framework, I'm against that.
Stelios wants to be a philosopher king.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the things, because we were playing around with DeepSeek earlier, one of the things I did is I got DeepSeek to prepare a model of UK politics by defining a profile of 12 different voter types and assigning them percentages of how they map to the UK population. And then I got it to write a manifesto for each of the Primarchs, each of the strongmen, and then I got it to run the election on the basis of that and work out who would win. And actually, was it so? Lehman Russ did very well with the Brexit voters.
What about the
Sanguinius,
Horus heresy?
Sanguinius did very well with the Zoomers, but it ended up
Was
being...
Horus a leftist?
I don't think, not originally, no. Angon's very based, but eventually Roberto Guillermin won it because he got the boomer vote, and therefore, obviously, if you get the boomer vote, you just win everything.
I've sent a link to that poll to Samson.
Oh right, okay.
So if you could pull that up, Samson, I've got the data to back up my very blurry memory from a few years ago. It should be coming up soon, but the data it's actually a line. So it's exactly what you want for this sort of conversation, and it goes up to 2022. Posted it in the Studio One, by the way. Right. Here we go. So as you can see,
oh yes, what's this?
Around 2017, there was a massive spike.
In what?
In people liking the idea that having a strong leader who does not have to bother with parliament or elections is a good way to run the country. And if you, if I steal a mouse,
yeah, and that was 2017.
Sorry, I pressed a button when I hit my hand. Go ahead, Samson, fix it. Thank you. So if I go up here, 25 to 34, 66% agree with that statement. And then if you go below, that's 35 to 44. And then there, that's 18 to 24, 61%. So 63, 66. So all of these age groups. So basically, if you're under 45, according to this one poll, you want a strong leader who does not have to bother with parliament or elections.
Basically, you mean an absolute. You mean absolute rule.
Yes.
If that's the, you mean the okay. Yeah.
But even the boomers jumped. So what happened in 2017? Is this the UK?
No, I'm not a fan.
Particular.
It is, yeah.
Was that when Theresa May?
Around the Brexit negotiation time, wasn't it? So I think people were particularly frustrated. Right. As you can see, there's a bit of drop off here. So it peaked in 2017, and then it's 62% there.
Oh, yeah, 60%. It's still massively up.
Yeah, and then you go all the way down, and look at that, over 75, the boomers.
Right. Okay.
I mean, people are notoriously volatile in what they believe.
That's
what
true,
they will say. And also when there are several polls with democracy, they're often very unclear, because a lot of people will say, well, no, I reject what is currently the case. Yes. And what is currently the case is described as democracy. But actually, if you see a lot of the policies that people associate with what is happening today, they're deeply unpopular.
Well, because they're weak and awful.
When people are rejecting something, we need to unpack what they are actually rejecting.
Well, at the minute, it's worth playing devil's advocate a little bit here. Liberal parliamentary democracy is doing more to radicalise people to the right than anything else, and actually maybe keeping it around is a very useful thing if you want to move public opinion right wing.
I don't believe in the accelerationist argument, because look at South Africa.
I know, yeah.
They've accelerated all the way to, whatever they are. So anyway, this I think is the correct choice. My man, Regal Dawn there versus Keir Starmer. Now, the interesting thing with Keir Starmer is he follows this conversation. He's been listening to our conversation, and you see he's got behind him there.
Listen to all our conversations. Yeah.
Stronger future together. So even somebody as weak and pathetic as Keir Starmer, he's got this residual bit in his brain that he's like, yeah, he understands that he needs strength. I mean, he can't manifest it.
Yeah. Sorry, but every politician in rhetoric has always said that, diversity is a strength.
Well, I mean, in this case, it just says stronger future, but they understand that strength is a thing that they've got to strive for.
But everyone does.
But he just can't do it. It reminds me of, penguins. They've got those little wings, and when they start to run, they start to flap them a little bit, because there's this residual part of their brain that is like, I want to go fast, I've got to flap the wings.
Who would deny that power is important?
Yes, but and that's what's basically happening to Keir Starmer. He's like the penguin who is trying to flap his strength wings, but they're so, shriveled that it just doesn't really work with him anymore.
Well, thank goodness he's not strong, because we would be in prison probably.
Yes. Further to my argument that there are no right-wing parties, because I do like Trump. And I think
Trump is a leftist.
Yes, he's still a leftist. Everybody. That's my argument. Everybody is a leftist because I mean, I just think
Because
back
he is not gonna go. He's not gonna go Salah mode.
I just think back to the RNC.
Not gonna have the lists.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
I think he
Sure.
does have lists these days. He's got a long list of enemies.
Yeah, but not as some people have fantasized before.
He's checking his list.
Twice.
Yeah.
I just go back to the RNC when what's her name? I've got it in the notes somewhere. Oh, Amber Rose, apparently a former porn
Definitely
star or
leftist.
something. Yes, but she spoke at the RNC, and this is my point.
To what end?
It's like even MAGA is basically to the left of where like Clinton Democrats were.
Well, I mean, to be fair, when I saw Trump's inauguration, Bill Clinton was having quite the time clapping and enjoying Trump's policy announcements in the background. So
Yes, because it's the most sensible thing you've seen.
It follows from what at least what you're saying is consistent. Because if your criteria for left and right is absolute rule,
Depravity versus truth and light.
I mean, you would have also to explain then why then also commies had absolute rule as well.
Yeah, they didn't have truth and light though.
Yeah, so I mean, it can't be that because it can't be
No.
absolute rule can be what distinguishes between.
It was not
left and
tyranny
right.
for the sake
I
of
think
it. No.
the best
Leftists had absolute rule as well.
the best axis to judge politics on, I think, is private versus state ownership. Absolute monarchy is absolute private ownership of a country, and communism is absolute state control of a country. And these are the two poles, and then you are somewhere in between.
I wouldn't accept this distinction because
No?
when you have an absolute monarch, they could actually take decisions arbitrarily. So they could arbitrarily decide to nationalize the economy or to just use assets.
That's true.
I mean,
They
one of
could-
the
they
one of the
could in
main
theory,
issues
yeah.
with lots of monarchies in the 17th and 18th century was that they couldn't fund their wars. That's why a lot of aristocracies rebelled against them. And then these aristocracies, often in the name of the people, they claimed that they were ruling in the name of the people, but
Yes.
they were actually more like elites.
I mean, I don't want to be ruled by King Charles particularly, but I'd still take it over Keir Starmer. I
Well, that's
want Dawn.
that's like
Wrangle.
asking where you want to be punched.
Yes.
The testicles is normally.
So I did prepare a long document, basically going through the policies of the right and the left, but we've talked too much, so I'm not going to do that. What else have I got? Oh yes, I did pick out a number of example policies, and again we've waffled a bit, so I'll keep this short. But welfare state. So for example, welfare state that's now supported by basically all the right wingers.
yeah, I well,
It is.
as in
Who's looking to get rid of it?
No, wait, yeah, you're correct.
No,
No, but I was thinking in terms of rhetoric. There are lots of right wingers who are in favor of welfareism for their own natives. For
Yeah,
the
none of them turn up on the camera and say we're going to get rid of it.
I want
Done.
to get rid of it.
Well, yes, very good. But you're not running, so
That's true. I will be running from the authorities soon after this goes out.
healthcare. Right-wing parties support universal healthcare like NHS or Medicare. Again, nobody is trying to get rid of the NHS or Medicare. Well, again, yes, you're not running, so you don't count. Keynesian economics, deficit spending,
That's
government
bad.
stimulus. Yeah, very bad.
Ooh.
All the right-wing parties support it.
There were some Rothbardians who had a T-shirt and it had marks, and they said at least he wasn't a Keynesian.
Environmentalism, again, all the right-wing parties support it to at least some degree. I mean, it's a question of degrees on that one, because some of them are more, oh, let's do net zero, and one of them is like, oh, let's put it off a bit. And
I hate ULEZ laws. I absolutely hate them.
I think also the sustainable energy and the global
a
warming
death
stuff is very
Yeah.
different than, I would consider myself an environmentalist, but that's more like I don't want you to concrete over the countryside to build houses. I want there to be more countryside and more trees.
yes, I like that stuff. Diversity agenda, again, supported by all the right-wing parties. I put up that Amber Rose picture earlier to make that point. Although I will give Homeland some credit here. They don't fall into that rhetoric, but then I have put them on the centre left, so that's right. Surveillance, they're all in favour of surveillance. Minimum wage, again, No right-wing party is going after that. Industrial subsidies. Yeah, that's all in there, and social liberalism. And I'll give you an example of how based even the left-wing parties were not that long ago. So when we first got the welfare state, because we're in a situation here today where the only cohort of native Brits that has above replacement level birth rate are those native Brits who are unemployed and in social housing. They are the only group, the native group, with above replacement birth rates.
Imagine if you got rid of welfare, it would flip to the people actually working, wouldn't it?
Well, you say that, right? When the welfare system was first brought in, the founders of the welfare system said, okay, we're going to have to sterilise people who go on it. And that was the left-wing perspective. And if that's not good enough for you, the United States and Sweden actually did that. They actually started sterilising people. So from the 1930s to the 1970s, Sweden sterilised tens of thousands of individuals as a condition of its welfare programme. And the US did it, not all states, but most states. And there was a Bell versus Buckley Supreme Court case which upheld it, with Justice Oliver Wendell writing, 3 generations of imbeciles are enough. Right. So that was the left-wing position as late as the 70s. And we've now got bloody Amber Rose at the RNC. So my argument is that, yes, you're all lefties, we're all lefties, all the political parties are lefties, the whole bloody world is lefty, so just, admit it. And, yes, let's hope for a strong man.
If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.